Welcome to the Lovoni and Sarah podcast, where we chat weight loss, health, well-being, share recipes, and set weekly challenges. We encourage each other to lose weight, become stronger, and squeeze more juice out of life. And we share our stories to let you know you're not in this alone. I'm Lovoni.
And I'm Sarah, and on today's episode, The Friend Edit, we're discussing at what point do you end a friendship that's subtracting from your life more than adding to it? Whether you find you've less in common these days, the relationship has become one-sided, perhaps jealousy has crept in, or your friend betrayed you in some way, what are the signs that it's time to dump a friend and move on? We also have a special guest, Sarah Jane, on the podcast, who lost 175 pounds. That's about 80 kilograms or 12 and a half stone, and transformed her health and fitness. Along the way, Sarah Jane discovered people who she considered friends weren't supportive of her transformation. And we're talking to her about her journey. But first, let's discuss the challenge that we set last week of less multitasking, more focus, and better time management. Lovoni, fill us in. How have you got on?
Well, I'm a work in progress, as we
Okay,
all are. Yeah.
absolutely.
But I have been better, and I've been trying to stay just on one task because I'm just a
Flit.
multitasker.
Flit, yeah.
A flit. And then I get anxious because I'm flitting so much. Anyway, so I've been doing that. My time management is getting better. I've been sort of, you go to look something up on your phone and next thing, oh God, half an hour's passed. So I've been very cognizant of that. And yeah, I mean, I'm good at getting things done. I am, and once I get focused and in the zone, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I can get anything done.
Is it just
But
that starting
it's,
point that you find difficult, like to get right into it?
yeah, that and the fact that, when people do a puzzle, they put one piece in it at a time. But
Right.
I tend to just get the whole puzzle and dump it out and then try and sort it out. So
Okay.
I'm just trying to, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Normally people have all the pieces on one side, not me. I
Yeah.
just dump it all in the middle and then try and sort it out. So I'm trying to do the one piece at a time thing. What about you? It's
Um,
exhausting, but
it is
anyway.
exhausting. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I've had a much more productive week. I have had many moments that have been a bit more, still had to be sort of multi multifaceted
Right.
with regards to my time. But what I found was I was trying to, during those multitask times, still give the task that I'm doing right now my full attention. So if someone wants to talk to me, give them my full attention. If I need to go and do something because an alarm's gone off or something, go and give that, rather than normally I think what I'm trying to do is everything half. So I'm
Mm.
just like, yeah, just hang on. And I'm trying to finish that email. And then I'm half speaking to them. And then I realize I haven't given the full response that I needed to do. So what I'm trying to do is, even if it means I have to stop what I'm doing, is then give that conversation my full attention, the other thing that I need to go and do. And I have found that I think I've gotten a lot better like that. So then I've sort of managed to block the time better and just get on. And I've achieved a lot this week. So yeah, I'm pleased. I am
That's
pleased. But
good.
as you
Well
say,
done.
a
Well,
work
and
in
you
progress.
haven't felt well, so
I know,
that doesn't
everybody. I'm
help.
still ill. In fact, it's kind of flared up again.
Right.
I'm really, really not very happy. I was really poorly again at the beginning of the week, but it's got to go soon. It's got to be
Right. You need to
gone.
fumigate your house.
I need to, as you suggested earlier in one of our text messages, move to the Caribbean.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I need to do.
Somewhere.
Just
Yeah.
me on a beach. That'll
Yeah.
fix it. That'll
There you
fix
go.
it. Yeah.
With a new toothbrush. Don't forget to replace the toothbrush or your toothbrush head when
Yes,
you've been
that's
sick.
fine. I'll
And
just take
anywhere
new.
you put it, what's that?
If I'm going to the
You're
Caribbean, I'll
taking.
take new everything.
Oh, right, right.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'll take you if you
You just
like. Yeah.
leave and
I'll
just
just
buy it all
leave
when
and
you're
buy
there.
everything there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the easiest way. So,
That would get you better, I bet. You wouldn't feel sick anymore.
what if I was in the Caribbean?
Yeah, I don't think you would. You'd
No,
feel
I'm sure I
better,
wouldn't.
I
Even if I
think.
did, I wouldn't care because I would be on a lovely
Right.
beach.
hmm
Who
Yep.
cares? Uh-huh.
Sounds good.
Yes.
You're focusing. You'd be on a beach focusing as you read your book or
Focusing on
something,
enjoying myself.
or writing your
Absolutely.
book, Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're doing the
The
friend
friend
edit.
edit. It's a bit of a touchy subject, don't you think?
It is a touchy subject. And like, so when do you think that you need to, and okay, I have two questions here.
Go on.
One, when is it time? to
Mhm.
go, okay, I don't need that person in my life. And two, do you actually tell them, or do you
Mm.
just not so much ghost them, but do you just let it
Ease
sort of
them out.
dwindle,
Pitter away,
and
yeah.
then peter away, or
Yeah,
right word.
yeah.
Like, okay, when is it time to end it?
Ugh, I
Let's
think
cover that.
I think really if you have got to the point when you think it's time to end it because it's overwhelmingly dragging you down consistently, not just once, there's
Right.
everyone's going to have times, but if we're talking over a long period of time, then I think eventually you've got to have a bit of a conversation with yourself. But then I don't know, I mean, I'm thinking, then do you then just make that decision on your own, or does it depends how close you are to the friend, I suppose, how long you've been friends, but does it warrant a conversation to sort of say, can we fix this, or is it really that's that? I don't know.
Mhm.
I think I'm quite lucky. I haven't really had to do that too much. I have let friendships just sit. So we've had a
Mhm.
falling out, for example, and I haven't made a conscious decision to sort of cut it out, but I've kind of just let it sit. So, and obviously the other person has also decided the same because we haven't then picked up. And actually, then more recently, we have tried to get back in contact again. It still hasn't picked up fully, but so I have let that happen. I have let the friendship kind of just sit there because I'm just like, you know what, I'm done with the falling out or the disagreement or the whatever that might be. But I don't,
Which is totally okay to do that.
yeah, because I just thought eventually, why am I, why am I putting myself through this? I feel that I tried. I feel that we'd, got to a point where it wasn't moving forward. So let's just park it, and then let's just see. So I haven't sort of written it off. I think I've been on the receiving end of a friend edit. We just sort of think, that's funny.
Right.
I don't really seem to, but then how do you know? Because I suppose the only way you would know is to not get a response to a text message, or maybe keep
Right.
fobbing you off if you're trying to make plans or something. I don't know, but
And
what
then, I
about,
mean, and sometimes people are just busy, but I think your instinct will tell you, really, I think at the end of the
well,
day,
I think there's only so many times you can suggest meeting up and they're like, yeah, great, I'll get back to you with a date, and then nothing happens.
and nothing.
You
Mm.
just sort of think, okay, how many times do you do that before we then think, I think this
Well,
is
then,
not
yeah,
going to go
because then
anywhere anymore?
it's become one-sided, right?
Yeah, and actually you just sort of think, I don't want to, I don't want to make myself feel too vulnerable anymore because I've kept asking.
Right.
And actually, if it's
Yeah.
not going to happen, then I don't have any ill feeling about it. I'll just park it, and
Mhm.
just leave it there. That's a bit different from having an actual edit where you think, yeah, this is not serving me anymore. This is not doing me
Mhm.
any favors. So have you had to sort of edit people out of your life?
I have, but I've just kind of let it peter out.
Right.
And, but these are some reasons I think people should do an edit is like serious betrayal.
Yeah.
So, if a good friend like slept with your partner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Boyfriend, husband, girlfriend, so that if it's become too one-sided, like I was saying,
Hmm.
you're making all the effort. If they're disrespectful to you, which is what I've been on the receiving end of,
Right.
and you're just basically tired of their bullshit and their put downs,
Hmm.
because some friends can be jealous and nasty and have, a sharp tongue. And
Hmm.
okay, yeah, you just take it and laugh it off.
But should
But
you?
after a while, you think, well,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. And I just don't think it's right. I had a friend like that. And I think often friends from, our childhood or school, just old friends, some, I mean, I've got like a handful of friends that I still am in contact with
Hmm.
back home, who I see, not all the time, but, we still catch up, we still communicate, and they will always be in my circle because
Yeah.
they're solid, they're good
Almost
friends.
family, yeah.
Right, but there's other friends who, that you think, "Meh," that I don't know, yeah, you were friends because of circumstances, I think.
Or
But there was
sometimes you
one
feel like
friend.
they're getting something out of it, and I don't like that either. You sort of think, actually, is
Right.
this just because 'cause you're getting something out of it rather than the actual
Well, there's
friendship?
one friend in particular, and I was very good friends with her, but I'd rock up to her place to go out, and she'd say things to me like, "Oh, you look like you had that top since you were 12," because I'd be wearing a fitted top that was meant to be fitted.
Yeah.
Just things like that, put down.
Mm.
Things didn't go her way, then she would get, upset about it and cancel, like, a holiday that we were taking.
Mhm.
And so it petered out. And last year she reached out to me and said, because she was a bit eccentric, is
Okay.
probably not the right word, because I don't mind eccentric. But anyway, she was a bit different.
Okay.
I like different too. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to be
Think of the right
kind.
word. Mhm.
Right. Anyway, she reached out to me and apologized for being a
Oh,
bitch to me so many times. And I thought, you know what? I just couldn't be bothered
it's just not enough.
answering.
Yeah.
I didn't, it's not something that I think of. Obviously, I thought of it, when we put this
Mhm.
together, but I just thought,
Do
no,
you know, it's
it's not worth it.
interesting, Mel Robbins, her latest newsletter that's just come out today, so this timing is quite spooky, but her latest newsletter is about being a terrible friend, and
Right.
she said that she was thinking back to her earlier years, like 20s, 30s, 40s, and she's recognised that she was a terrible friend. She was really
Really?
unpleasant, and she said it's because she was triggered by friends' success, and so she
Hmm.
always felt she was behind the ball. Um, and so then she became a fake friend. And so what happened, she kind of hung out, she was in that circle still, but she wasn't a friend. She actually was being triggered by their success. So that might be quite interesting when we talk to Sarah Jane in just a short while, to see that
Right,
how
right.
people reacted with her when we hear her story. Maybe there was an element of that in there, involved too. People,
Mm-hmm.
people being jealous, like
Yeah,
you just described.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably where hers came from,
Mm.
was being jealous. So
So shall we catch up with Sarah Jane?
let's catch up with Sarah Jane. That's what I was
Okay.
just going to say. All right.
Welcome, Sarah Jane. Thank you so much for joining us today. Um, we would like to talk to you about so much about your journey, but I think the first thing would be for you to share about your weight loss journey, how you've got to today, and what you went through, if that's okay, from the
Yeah,
beginning or wherever you want to start.
yeah, absolutely. So my journey actually began at 11, very low self-worth, and I started my periods at a really young age and developed a woman's figure.
Hmm.
I'd always been a little bit of a comfort eater, but that's when the whole toxic um, dieting came in, and my binge restriction and my food addiction
Hmm.
kicked in. So from a very young age, I never felt like I fitted in. I had extremely low self worth, no boundaries, and would swallow down my emotion, literally pushing it down by binge eating lots and lots of sweet, sugary food.
Hmm.
I had a really big health scare when my weight got to nearly 22 stone. Um, now weigh 9 stone 6, so I've lost 12 and a half to 13 stone in weight.
Hmm.
Can I just, sorry to interrupt here, but for people listening, so there's 14 pounds in a stone. And then for kilos, then you just divide
Yeah,
14
so
by
we've worked
2.2.
that
So
roughly, so about
yeah,
175 pounds, about 80 kilos ish. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, what I thought the journey was going to be about was all about changing the outside. Actually, was a completely different journey, and it was about changing everything. So that's physical health, mental health, spiritual health, self worth. It really was a healing journey.
Hmm.
Was full of shame. Nobody ever talks about food addiction. We hide it. I isolated myself and I realized all my relationships, I was really lonely because I hid a massive part of myself.
Mm.
And I vowed if I could ever overcome this, that I would work to support others, which is what I do now. Much.
And so, one of the reasons we've asked you on today was you have described, and actually you've been in the press recently, sort of to try and describe your story, about that relationship with friends and the people that were around you and how that changed. But how far into your transformation journey did you notice that your friends were starting to treat you differently and react differently?
Um, so the friendship group that I lost, we'd been friends for about 10 years, and we'd met through running. And when I started running at the age of 40, I was probably about 2 to 3 dress sizes bigger than what I am now.
Hmm.
And um,
So
yeah, we
you'd
just
already lost a lot of weight at that point
lost
then.
some weight. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I started losing weight at 26.
Right.
And I had a young family, so I just lost a lot through educating myself. By the time I got to 40, I was like a UK size 14 to 16.
Hmm.
And um
And you were running.
and running. I'd started running. I did the couch 5K, and I just gelled with this really nice friendship group, and you know, and they were kind of similar figures,
I was going to ask
and
if they were a similar sort of size. Yeah.
yeah, and we all just got on really well. I must admit, because I had low self-worth, I always people pleased constantly. And
Mm.
some months there may be 4 or 5 of us, and I would find that they were doing all the talking, and I was just not saying anything. But I just adapted to fit in, because
Hmm.
I thought, who I just wanted people to love me,
Yeah.
because I didn't love myself, and I
Yeah.
think that's a basic human need.
Yeah.
And so as I began running, I started losing more weight, and all of a sudden they were like, are you okay? It started sort of like passive aggressive, and
Mm.
it really, really confused me. I couldn't work out why I was feeling uncomfortable. Are you okay? Are you eating properly? And it was always like they were really concerned about me.
Mm.
And I thought, this, I just was mystified by it. And because I didn't trust myself, that feeling of this doesn't feel right, I didn't trust. So I tried to
Mm.
change it more. You know, on the I don't drink alcohol now, perfectly through a health choice, and a benefit to my mental health. And if ever we went out socially, they would put so much pressure on me to drink alcohol. Oh,
Yeah.
come on, you're so boring. If we went out for dinner and
That's
I was
awful.
eating a healthy meal, it'd be like, oh, look at you, you're just pushing your salad leaves round the plate, and as a joke, and then start laughing about it. But because there was
Mm.
more of them, I quite often felt attacked,
Mm.
and and different people started coming into my life as my confidence grew, and then I started to notice that they made me feel like sunshine. And I can certainly say that my girlfriends now, when I see them, I feel like I'm shining. I feel like I'm the best version of myself.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
around my female friends now. Whereas back then, when I was getting all these caring comments, and they would always say, but we're your real friends. We're your real friends, Sarah. And I was so broken and so didn't trust myself. I would think, oh, it's just me then.
Mm.
I'm overreacting, and always got told, well, the thing is, you're just so sensitive, aren't you? Like it was a fault. And now
Right.
I'm really proud that I'm really sensitive. And in my work with others, as we all know, our weight and our relationship with food is a very, very sensitive subject. So now my sensitivity is one of my best strengths when I'm
Mm.
working with someone
Hmm.
else. So there was never
So where
anything wrong
where
with
did
me.
you think, now you've had time to reflect and you look back,
Yeah.
where do you think that shift in their behavior came from, and what gave you the strength to then move away from that and make those changes?
So I think the, their change in behaviour was because I was changing.
Yeah.
And they could not only see that, but they could feel it. All of a sudden, instead of, just swallowing down my feelings, I was realizing actually I have, my point of view is just as important as everybody else's, and my
Mhm.
opinion. And, I started, I suppose, in a way, standing up for myself. And, well, actually, no, I don't agree with that.
Mhm.
That's not how I would do it. And everyone else, it was very much that pack mentality.
Mhm.
Everyone was going along with the flow of the stream, and I was the one saying, oh no. And one of the things that I really hate is when groups of people are saying nasty things about other people. I mean, it doesn't have to be particularly, I mean, I would never ever comment on someone's weight or appearance, because I have been on the receiving
Yeah.
end of,
Mhm.
I've been in a restaurant and people pointing at me when I was at my biggest. I've been walking down the street in broad daylight in the middle of the day, had people beeping their horn, shouting out the window at me. I've been a part of that.
Yeah.
And that girl is still a part of me. That 22 stone girl is still a part of me, and I'm sensitive to that. And if they were saying nasty comments about other people, I thought this doesn't sit with me, and I'd say,
Yeah.
oh no, I don't think that, and then I would just get the whole pack.
Yeah.
It
But
kind of
do you think it that really ultimately, because you were changing, you were improving yourself, obviously physically your appearance was changing, you're becoming fitter ultimately, and we were talking about this before before we started talking to you, Sarah Jane, but do you think ultimately there's obviously it's born from jealousy, probably from the rest of them? Do you think that's where that came from?
you know, I'm always like to see the best in people, so I like to think not, but I've had many conversations with other women about it, and they were like, hell yeah, this is where it's coming from,
Mm.
you know. And I can't speak for them, but all I can say is being on the receiving end of it wasn't very nice.
At what stage did you decide, okay, this is toxic? Because really, their behavior was toxic for
Yeah,
what you were trying to do. So
absolutely.
did you say to them, I can't be part of this world of yours? Or did
Yeah.
you just decide to step back and just let it, dwindle? Like at
Yeah.
what stage did you decide to do that? How did you do it?
It was some birthday celebrations, and it was really funny because they'd organised this massive, great big surprise. I'd just started again in my life, so my financial situation was really low. I couldn't keep up with them financially, so they were taking me out and really spoiling me. And I felt so anxious about going that one of my other friends said to me, "You really don't have to go, Sarah." And I said, "What do you mean?" She was like, "Well, you know, you've got to protect yourself with a healthy boundary." And that, I think I was 48, 49 then. And I
Were
was
you
like,
like, healthy
yeah,
boundary? What's
what
that?
is
Yeah.
it? Absolutely, 100%. And
Right.
interestingly enough, the morning that we were going out, I had woken up with a massive migraine. So my body was saying to me, this is no good for your health. But I
Divine intervention.
Yeah, and we were sat on a big long table. I literally was getting questions fired at me. Then they'd ask me a question. I would be halfway through saying a sentence, and they were like talking all over me. And I just sat back and I thought, no. I didn't want a confrontation because, like I said, I wasn't a very confident person. The the person I am today, absolutely 110%. I would have said, thanks ever so much, but I'm leaving now. But at that time, I couldn't have done that. I mean, I drove home sobbing. I felt awful. And of course, my food addiction, I always used it for
I
comfort.
was going to ask you that. Did it then trigger your reaction in your food addiction?
Massive,
Mm.
massively. And interestingly enough, that particular friendship group always bought me boxes of chocolates. They made me this massive cake. And I think, if you've got a food addiction, you've got certain trigger foods that you will
Mm.
be on. Mine was always sweet food.
Hmm.
I associated that with my paternal grandmother, who did a lot of baking. And I filled myself with sweet food because that to me was self love. That
Hmm.
was my love, and that's what I did. And they kind of knew that. And I mean, really, I was very open and honest about my relationship with food. And I sort of said to them, that this is really not doing me any favors. But I would still get them, and a huge
Mm.
big box of chocolates. And for an addict, I can't eat one. It would be
No.
the whole
The whole
box.
box.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
Why do
those
people
whole
do that
I have,
know that?
I have no idea, Livoni, because
I
I
live with somebody like that.
Yeah, what I don't understand is, so I watched a documentary on Alcoholics Anonymous, which is a very successful program, and I resonated with all of it, but with food.
Mm.
And I did a video on
Mm.
holiday because everyone goes, "Oh, so when you're on holiday, do you have a drink on holiday?" And I went, right. So I just got on my camera and I'm just talking to them, and I said, "Look, guys, would you say to an alcoholic, are you going to have a glass of wine on holiday?"
Right.
And then they all went, I get you. Absolutely not. I carry out the same daily habits that's healthy. I start off being grateful for the day. I'm going to choose my health. there's no difference. It's just the substance that's different.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
The substance is different.
Mhm.
But you're around food all the time. That's why I think
Oh, massively.
people that, that have food addictions, and for people that are overweight, pretty much, and that struggle with that, they all have. I think they do. It's a
Yeah,
very common thing, but like you said, it's not talked about so much.
it's
But
but it
food, you have to eat to survive.
yeah.
So it's not like you don't have to drink.
Mhm,
You don't have to take drugs. Yes,
mhm,
they're addictions,
mhm.
but you survive better without those. You can't survive without food. So
Right.
it's a very
It's
hard
managing that
addiction
relation,
for
yeah.
that. And
Massively.
yeah, and something that, like you said, is not talked about. And there
Yeah.
is, I think, any addiction,
Mm.
there's a lot of shame around. And I
Massive.
think that talking about it, I mean, more people now talk about mental health. And I think people need to talk about that because
Yeah.
it's all a mental thing. We've said many times on here, it doesn't matter what diet you go on, what you do, if you don't deal with the mental and emotional aspects, you're just going to put it all back on again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. And that's why I say my own journey took me by surprise. I thought it was all going to be about, I'm just going to change this, how
Mhm.
I, and that's going to solve everything in my life. But when I'd got to 6 stone weight loss, so about 6 dress sizes down, I remember thinking, well, this doesn't feel how I thought it was going to feel, because I thought if I lose the weight and physically change, I will be happy, all will be well in the world.
Mhm.
Like, don't we? We think if
Magic
we,
fix. Mhm.
yeah, and it was the complete and utter opposite, because I started finding even more faults in myself, and I thought, gosh, this is not how I expected to feel at all. And so then the real work began, and I read the first sort of self-worth, self-help book that I read was Louise Hay, How to Heal Your Life. And I read that kind of about 28 years old, so you can really see the journey was
Mhm.
slow and steady progress, but permanent change. And
Yeah.
that's why the whole diet industry is so toxic. It preys on us hating ourselves. And I'd introduced myself to that at such a young age that
Mhm.
I got my low self-worth even more. And that's
Yeah.
when the real work began. Because it's hard. It hurts. When I lost that friendship group, it really hurt. I felt betrayed. I kind of grieved. I
Mhm.
grieved.
Mm.
And um, but each layer of healing that I've done, I describe it as an onion and peeling off the layers. I've come back stronger, more confident, a better version of myself, a more resilient person.
Mhm.
You
And it's tough to go through that. It's very tough to go through that.
you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, and it wasn't on the questions we sent you. But before we started filming, you were talking about how, at the same time you also went through a divorce,
Mm,
and how you felt that losing your friends hit you harder than that. But if you don't mind me asking, was the divorce in relation, like, was your ex-husband supportive of you losing weight, or did
yeah,
that have something to do with it? Or you know what I mean, with the weight loss, and you just
yeah,
deciding this isn't right for me? Like, is
absolutely.
that all tied in together?
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. So kind of, I mean, I can't. It it was a 16-year relationship, and I can't tell you how many times I had tearful conversations and said to him, please don't bring that food in the house. I can't have it in the house. I don't want it in the cupboard. And if you want me to be, if you love me, you want me to be the healthiest version of myself. Wow. He would be sat next to me with big bars of chocolate. Oh, I brought some cakes home. And I just didn't feel heard or valued. I felt disrespected. And as my self worth was growing and my boundaries were getting put in place, and lockdown happened, and I was really aware then that I could easily go back into my old ways. We were all scared. We didn't know. And
Mhm.
there was an emotion that I could use food to numb.
Yeah.
And I was very aware. And so, I just kept having the same conversation over and over again. And I thought, I just didn't feel respected. And it just naturally, everything just naturally just fell away.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have to say that the pain was worth it. And it's made my food addiction far, far easier to manage by not being triggered by those people are not in my life anymore.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And yes, I grieved for it. And there's part of you, it's always sad at the end of any relationship, isn't it? It's sad.
Yeah.
But it was so the right thing because my emotions now are far more an even keel.
Mhm.
Therefore, my triggers to binge are very few and far between.
Just reduced. I was just say, so what would be your sort of lasting piece of advice that you'd give to people, either and or around that journey that you've been on with your weight loss, and then your, you know, your relationships that you found that weren't serving you in the friendship relationship particularly? What would be the sort of piece of advice that you'd want to give people?
I would say you have to stop feeling shame because, firstly, the processed food market is engineered by scientists to be highly addictive. You hear the tagline of a certain crisp is once you pop, you can't stop. Well, they are designed to be highly addictive. Yet, us food addicts are really ashamed that we can't control the amount of food we eat. But actually, it's no different to having addictive substance in tobacco. And you know, now they're hidden away, aren't they? They're not allowed to be displayed cigarettes.
Yeah.
Well, in my opinion, the food should be the same. That's why I
Right.
want to talk about this, raise awareness, so that all those poor people that are struggling with this addiction to food stop beating themselves up and start caring for themselves and thinking, actually, you know what, I'm addicted to this. And talk to as many people as you can, because I guarantee you, so say you work in an office and a co-worker says on a really stressful day, tonight I'm going to go home and buy a bottle of wine, I've had such a bad day, and everyone will kind of laugh and go, yeah, it's been one of those days. No one will bat an eyelid. But my coping mechanism would have been, do you know what, I've had such a bad day, I'm going to stop in the supermarket on the way home, I'm going to buy 3 packets of biscuits, 2 family-sized cakes and a huge bar of chocolate, and I'm going to sit and eat it all really, 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 really fast, and
Until you
then
feel unwell. Yeah.
massively
Yeah.
and be disgusted with myself.
And do you
Nobody's
think, and then people would probably to themselves be disgusted with that too, whereas the alcohol gets laughed off.
I know, but that's what's wrong. I mean, I must say, in our country now, in the UK, Lovoni, there's a massive article in the Times newspaper today about ultra processed food, and about it having health warnings on it. Just
Right.
to
We did
the
an episode
Yeah.
on ultra processed food. Yeah.
uh,
It's quite scary.
What anybody that's listening to this that has just, you know, where their friends are doing similar things to what we've talked about with you, like what advice would you give them? You know, and how can they like cut ties with the toxic people like that aren't good for their mental health? Like what
I,
advice can you give
yeah,
them?
definitely introduce some boundaries and learn that it's perfectly healthy to say no. It's perfectly healthy. You don't have to give them an explanation, and be
That's good.
kind and caring to yourself. Treat yourself as you would your friends, your children, your husband. You know, as women, I think we're very nurturing towards others, but not very good at being nurturing to ourselves.
Yeah.
So nurture yourself, and if you get that gut feeling that something's off, and then you start noticing that you eat more around certain people, that's your body telling you that they trigger you.
Okay, that makes sense.
And for me, the best way
Excuse me.
to keep off a binge is by eating real food.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what
Exactly.
we talk about regularly, isn't it? In total
And
agreement.
I still, you know, I love a piece of homemade cake,
Excuse me.
but that's the difference. It's homemade with store cupboard ingredients. It's not
Yeah,
full of, yeah, you know, it's good food,
yeah,
and it fills you
absolutely.
up. big difference as well. You know, when I used to eat those large, massive quantities of
Sorry.
food, I was never ever full up.
No,
Never.
no, it's the nutritional value as well,
Empty
isn't it?
calories. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Massively. Yeah.
Thank you so
Sarah Jane,
much.
thank you so
Oh,
much. Thank you
I'd
for
love to
being here and sharing.
Delightful.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me, ladies.
You're
And
just delightful, and congratulations for
thank
doing
you.
all that you've done. And
Thank
it's definitely not easy. So well done you.
thank you
And
so
keep
much.
going, and keep supporting people and doing what you're doing. That was good. Sarah
Really
Jane, it
good.
was so delightful, so delightful.
I really
And
felt her, right, we
oh,
sort of felt her pain and the journey that she'd
yeah,
been on, and
yeah.
really connected with some of the things that she was saying around food addiction and people's reactions and things. Yeah, it made
Mm.
her, I really connected with a lot of what she had to
Oh,
say.
and about people trying to force
Mm-hmm.
food on her or alcohol on her and telling her she was boring now. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that do that. I don't know why, whether it's because they're uncomfortable
Or they
with
probably
themselves, or I don't, who
potentially they wish they could
knows?
do it themselves or something. I don't know.
Who knows? Or they just genuinely think that
Mm-hmm.
because you're not, drinking or
Yeah.
eating or whatever, that somehow you're going to be boring.
Social programming. Yeah.
It's social pressure too,
Yeah.
and what she was saying about her husband,
Mm-hmm.
how he would, buy her things or just sit there and eat stuff in front of her. I don't know how people do that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't do that to somebody. Even if it was a friend I was sharing a house with or whatever,
Yeah.
it's a
Support.
sign of respect,
Yeah.
I think. It's a sign
It's
of
sort of love,
respect.
really, isn't it? If you love someone, you do something to look after them like that.
Right. But I was saying to you how people say like the sign of a true friend is somebody that's there for you when, when everything's
It's
going
hard.
wrong and
Mm-hmm.
things are hard. But I genuinely believe that a sign of a really good friend is somebody that can be happy for you when things are going right. Like
Mm-hmm.
genuinely happy. Like if you tell me you've lost weight, I
Yeah.
feel the excitement that you feel. I'm
Yeah.
excited for you because I know that's what you want to do, and I'm genuinely happy, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You might think, "Oh God, I wish I'd lost that this week," or something like that, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But
But
to be
also, like, good
genuinely
on you.
happy, yeah, for someone because
I can remember
they
a
want
select
that.
number of times in my life when a friend, something good has happened to them, and I've been so overwhelmingly happy, like almost like it had
Right.
happened to me. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh, I'm so pleased for you. And
And that's a sign of a
that's
good
that's
friend.
the thing. You just sort of think if they're part of your life, you've given them, let's be honest, you've your space, your life, you've given someone space within that to be part of your life through a friend or whatever it might be. And so if you've allowed them to be part of your life, then you should want to then feel the joy that they're feeling too, shouldn't
Mhm.
you?
Yep.
And the pain when they're going through that as well. And that's
Right.
really hard because
Yeah.
sometimes I'm working better at this, but I was used to be one of the people that wanted to fix it all the time. If someone came
Mhm.
in with a problem, like, I'll fix it. Now I'm trying to be just the listener. And it's not easy, but actually that's all that someone needs sometimes, isn't it? It's just that ear to sort of offload to. But yeah, I mean, like, you're right. I think you do have to want to enjoy people's success if they're part of your
Oh,
life.
absolutely. Yeah. To try and belittle them and put them down and
Mm.
say, "Is something wrong? Are you not eating?" And I mean, that's nasty.
But that is on them, isn't it? And I have said this with my
Yes.
son as he's been growing up, and the normal trials and tribulations of friendships and all that sort of stuff, and go, you know
Right.
what? As long as you know genuinely that you've done the right thing, you've tried to keep the door open, you've been empathetic, and you've been, trying to make sure that it's right for you and for them, because that's the thing. It's got to be right for you and them. Then if they're not being kind or they're not doing the right thing, that's on them, and you can't do anything about that. And I think that's what we've got to go through that process of, isn't it? If a friend or a relationship's not serving you, then that's what you've got to go through, that process of going, you know what, then I'm going to let them be them. But how do we
Right.
do that, Livoni? How do we then move ourselves away? Because that's tricky, isn't it? How
I
do we
think
then
that
move
you
ourselves
I
away
think
from
you
them?
just have to do just that. Is
Right.
just
Create
not everything requires an explanation,
or
I don't
confrontation.
think,
I don't think
or a
necessarily.
confrontation.
No.
Or someone trying to justify why they've done something, which then is just going to, just create more angst.
Yeah.
And the reason why you want to do this is like Sarah Jane did, was to protect her mental state, because she knew that she'd slide back down. So either you just say, maybe you drop them an email, because sometimes saying something face to face is going to
Difficult.
then
Yeah.
be the back and forth. And even an email or a text can be the same thing. But you're just like, you know what? I'm sorry.
Draw a
I
line.
wish you all the best in life. Be dignified about it.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm done.
Yeah.
And just, you don't even have to give an explanation, and just walk away. They can send you as many texts as you like. You can block them if you want to. You could just ignore them. But owe nobody an explanation. Unless it's maybe, somebody that you've been married to or a partner for
A
years.
relationship's
But even,
different. Yeah. But
yeah. But if they're, well, even if somebody's been treating you bad and you just go, enough, I'm
yeah.
done. Really, I don't think they
Doesn't
know
need
that
any
they've
more
been
than that.
treating you bad.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't need to give them an explanation. But in saying that, I know this is the friend edit, but sometimes there's a family edit. And I know people say, oh, life's too short, they're family. But people in a family can just be just as
Hurtful.
bad. And just because you're related doesn't mean you have
Well,
to put up
sometimes it's
with it
worse because
from
they feel
them.
like they've got the right to say whatever they want. And then you're
Right,
like, there doesn't
right.
seem to be any filter, does there? And you're like, hang
Yeah.
on a minute. But yeah, I know what you
I
mean.
think that's okay too, because just because they're family doesn't mean that you have to like them or put up with their bullshit, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just need to set boundaries. And I think that's the first step in doing this.
That
If you
really
have
sort
a
of set a
friend.
bit of an alarm with me when she's saying those things. I'm thinking, I'm not sure. It's not an easy thing to do, to set boundaries, is it? And I think it's definitely something you learn. Some people are much better than others. But I think for me, the takeaway underneath all of that is your self-confidence, self-esteem, self-love,
Self-worth.
self-worth. And once you can get to the nub of your self-worth, I think everything else then falls into place. So you'll probably naturally become to edit your friendship group, or potentially your family or your relationships. And that then made me think, you know what, this really a life edit, isn't it? Because it's all of the things that don't serve you. It's having that ability to give them space, let them move away. It doesn't have to be a confrontational situation, like a big bang or bust situation, but just move yourself away from it. So
Yep.
I was then thinking that through. If it's work and it's not suiting what you want to do anymore, you're not my favorite phrase that my friend's dad once said to me, went, "You're not a tree."
Right. You
Pick
can
yourself
move.
up and move then.
Right.
And I just thought, you're not a
And
tree.
don't be afraid of that. I think
Yeah.
that's the fear
It
that
is
keeps
fear.
people in the same
Paralyzes you. Yeah.
position. Yes.
And so
Like,
I think this big edit can happen. Yes, friendships, because we're talking about that today. And I think there's a real value to that. Family, you're right. But actually, once you've got to that nub of self-worth, everything becomes easier to edit. Your work, what do you want for your life? What do you want your life to look like? And start making some of those changes. It might even be some little things like a hairstyle, or your clothes, your fashion sense, or you are enabled, you have the agency to make these changes. And
yeah.
actually, once you start to make these changes, you might find things fall away. So Sarah Jane described that it probably wasn't a coincidence that all at the same time her marriage came to an end, her friendship group moved away. It's because when you start to then lift up this true part of you, that other things that are not working then will just
Not
naturally
serving you.
start to move away. And
Yeah.
I think for me, that's one of the biggest takeaways. Is that she had a lot of great things to say there for me to think about. But I think that is, if you can have a good hard think about what is this self-worth mean for you, because it's going to be different for everybody. But finding that, naturally everything else I think will fall into place.
Appreciating yourself too, and knowing that you have something to offer the world. It doesn't matter how old you are. You could be
Yes.
30, 20, you could be 60 or 70.
Yeah.
But don't base it on age. You can't be like, well, I'm going
No.
to stay in this marriage because, you know, I'm
It's too
75
late
and I've
now.
already,
Yeah,
it's too late now.
it's never too late.
Too late. You can build an empire, you can start a new career, you can pick up new hobbies, you can do anything. The only thing that's holding you back really is
Yeah.
yourself.
Mhm.
So, and you know, people would say finances too, because I think that's a really big
It
thing,
is.
is the
Mhm.
finances. So, you know, maybe that's the first thing to look
Get in
at, but
order.
know that there are things out there that you can do to help that.
Do you know what? That feeds really well into next week's episode, doesn't it? Our Ikigai episode.
Oh, I know. I'm excited about that,
I'm
considering
really
I had no
excited.
idea what it was, but I am excited about that. Because that is going to be next week.
It is.
So it's going to be and I'm going Ikigai. I said it right,
You
yeah?
did say it right, yeah. Ikigai,
Okay,
yeah.
good. It's a Japanese concept that, in short, encourages people to discover what truly matters to them, and to live a fulfilled life with purpose and joy. Ikigai's 4 primary elements are what you love, this is your passion, what the world needs, your mission, what you're good at, which is your vocation, and what you get paid for, your profession. We're going to talk about the rules of Ikigai and the positive effects it has on mental and physical health, because when you get those 4 things in line, that apparently is going to
Pretty
help
much like we've
physically.
just described, I think, that
Yeah.
element of self-worth and everything else then just falls away.
So I'm looking forward to that.
I am.
Be sure to visit lovoniandsarah.com for show notes on today's episode, and see below for links to connect with us on Instagram and our YouTube channel, where you can listen to us and watch us. I'm also going to put Sarah Jane's contact information down there as well. We hope something in this podcast resonated with you. To be true to yourself. You don't need a lot of friends, you just need good friends. Even if you have one good friend, that's good.
That's enough.
Yes. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye.